Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World One. I'm Atha Juneja and this is Speed News. Let's start with all the stories making headlines today. After days of tensions, the US and Iran are set to hold talks in Doha on Tuesday. US President Donald Trump says Iran has requested a meeting despite Iran denying that direct negotiations were planned with US on the deal aimed at ending the West Asia war. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghei said a delegation of the country's own expert would travel to Doha this week, but staunchly denied any sit-down with Americans. Iran's foreign ministry said it held the first meeting with Oman on managing the Strait of Hormuz. However, Iran remains sensitive about the issue of demining in a joint statement following a meeting between French President Emmanuel Macron and Omani Sultan Haytham bin Tariq. Paris and Muscat said they would conduct joint demining operations. In response, Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Garibabadi issued a strong advice to Macron against complicating Hormuz situation with provocations. A Palestinian teen was killed during an Israeli military raid. The Palestinian Health Ministry said 15-year-old Amir Ahmed Jawad Jaber was shot in the head and chest near Ramallah and later succumbed to his injuries. The Israeli military said its forces came under what it described as a violent riot with stones thrown at soldiers. It said troops opened fire at a suspect and confirmed the hit. Israeli settlers escorted by soldiers toured the Sebastia archaeological site area in the occupied West Bank. This was a Palestinian-organized diplomatic visit ahead of a significant UNESCO heritage vote. However, Palestinian officials said that the visit was another attempt to reinforce Israel's settlement presence in the occupied territory. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has warned that relentless Israeli settlement expansion, rising settler violence and growing restrictions on Palestinians have triggered the largest displacement crisis in the West Bank since the year 1967. In a new report, he also cautioned that planned construction in the E1 corridor could serve the northern and southern West Bank, calling it an existential threat to the viability of a future two-state solution. Ukrainian authorities say a Russian-guided bomb strike on Ukraine's Kharkiv killed at least one person and injured 12 others. The strike damaged a tram, more than 15 vehicles and nearby buildings in the city. Officials said another glide bomb was launched less than an hour later but failed to explode. Additional attacks were also reported in Dnipro and Zaporizhia, two cities that have reportedly come under fire during the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky took a shot at Russia's failure to seize control of the Donbas region, saying Moscow has missed 15 stated deadlines over the past 4 years. He also said Russia is facing increasing economic pressure, including fuel shortages, which he linked to the ongoing war and Ukrainian long-range strikes. Poland has signed a multi-billion euro defense deal with Sweden to acquire 3 advanced A-26 stealth submarines from Saab. Well, this marks one of Warsaw's biggest military procurement agreements in decades. The NATO member is strengthening its naval capabilities amid rising security concerns in the Baltic region. The contract includes submarines, weapons systems, crew training and long-term maintenance support, with delivery set to begin in the year 2030 and the final vessel expected by 2038. The U.S. Supreme Court backed Donald Trump's authority to remove a Democratic member of the Federal Trade Commission, expanding presidential control over some independent agencies. In a 6-3 ruling, the court overturned a decades-old precedent that allowed Congress to limit the president's power to remove officials from certain regulatory bodies. The decision came after Trump dismissed FTC member Rebecca Slaughter over policy disagreements. In Germany, a gunman killed 6 people at a shelter for mothers and children in the northern town of state. Emergency services rushed to the scene, where the suspect was arrested after a short chase following an attempted escape in a car driven by a 65-year-old woman. Officials said that the attack was linked to a family dispute, with the suspect reportedly involved in a custody battle over his 3-month-old daughter. The death toll from twin earthquakes that struck Venezuela last week has risen above 1,700, with tens of thousands of people still reported missing. Emergency operations continues as authorities work to assess the damage and provide assistance to affected communities. The port of La Guaira, one of the hardest hit areas, has resumed operations after urgent repairs. Interim President Delcy Rodriguez said rescue teams from 30 countries are working alongside Venezuelan emergency responders after deadly twin earthquakes that struck the country. The government has set up a joint command to coordinate temporary camps and housing for survivors, while the United Nations is sending 10,000 body bags as part of emergency preparations amid fears of the death toll that could rise further. Keiko Fujimori has been declared Peru's new president-elect after a narrow election victory. She has promised to restore order and hope in a country facing rising crime and years of political instability. Fujimori defeated leftist rival Roberto Sanchez by fewer than 50,000 votes, securing the presidency on her 4th attempt. Well, a victory marks the return of the Fujimori name to Peru's presidential palace more than 2 decades after the fall of her father, Alberto Fujimori, whose legacy remains deeply divisive. U.S. Ambassador to India Sergio Gore has said that ties between the two countries remain strong, describing India as a trusted and predictable strategic partner. He said negotiations on the long-awaited India-U.S. bilateral trade agreement are nearing completion, with officials working on the final details of the legal text. Gore also announced that a high-level Quad meeting is expected to take place in the Philippines in around 2 weeks. General Dheeraj Seth is set to take charge as India's new Chief of the Army Staff today, succeeding General Upendra Dwivedi after his retirement from more than 4 decades of military service. Seth's appointment comes as the Indian Army continues efforts to modernize, strengthen capabilities and restructure its forces. He becomes the first Armoured Corps officer in nearly 3 decades to lead the Army and will serve as Chief until 31st of August 2028. The Arunachal Pradesh government will form a committee to examine claims by a local group alleging Chinese military encroachment along the India-China border in Upper Subansiri district. The Na Welfare Society has alleged that Chinese forces have built camps, roads and bridges in areas considered Indian territory. State Home Minister Mama Nateen said that the committee will investigate the claims and assess the situation in the border region. Hundreds of people gathered in South Africa's Soweto township to protest against undocumented migrants, calling for them to leave the country ahead of an unofficial deadline. Demonstrators said they want the government to address illegal immigration, while leaders of anti-migrant groups urged those without legal status to leave. 3 firefighters have died and 2 others were injured while battling the cinder wildfire along the Utah-Colorado border. But the blaze has burned around 28,000 acres and remains at 0% containment. The fire started in eastern Utah before spreading into Colorado, where it merged with other smaller fires. Colorado governor declared a disaster emergency response, allowing the National Guard to assist firefighting efforts. A fast-moving wildfire swept from agricultural land into forest areas in western Turkey's Izmir province on Monday. Helicopters and waterbombing aircraft joined dozens of fire crews on the ground after flames edged closer to the town of Kendarli, with thick smoke engulfing the surrounding area. The blaze is the latest in a growing wave of Mediterranean wildfires fueled by increasingly hot and dry conditions that scientists link to climate change. Heavy rain caused flooding in parts of Ghana on Monday, leaving roads covered with water and vehicles were stuck. Some drivers were seen pushing cars through flooded streets as traffic slowed across affected areas. Authorities warned people to avoid flooded roads and waterways, while emergency teams were sent to help communities and manage the situation. Villages in India's northeastern Assam state were inundated by floodwaters on Monday after torrential rain in neighbouring Arunachal Pradesh triggered flash floods across the region. The flooding reached areas including Nuhai village in Assam, while officials reported deaths and missing people in Arunachal Pradesh's Kei Panyor district following the heavy rains. Flash floods and landslides are expected to affect communities across the region during the monsoon season. A powerful storm system swept through Yulin city in northwest China's Shaanxi province, bringing large hail, strong winds and torrential rain across several areas. Heavy hail struck streets and vehicles, while flooding left roads submerged and swept some vehicles away. Authorities recorded wind gusts reaching force 12 on the Beaufort scale, with intense rainfall causing waterlogging, fallen trees and travel disruptions. In Hungary, as temperatures climbed to 38 degrees Celsius across Budapest, residents looked for ways to escape the record-breaking heatwave on Monday. People gathered at cooling mist stations and public water points to find relief from the intense heat, which has affected daily life across Europe. Scientists say the heatwave is among the most severe recorded on the continent, with high temperatures straining power supplies, infrastructure and healthcare services. Italy's longest river is running at record low levels as a severe heat wave pushes seawater further inland. Officials say the Po River's flow has dropped far below normal levels for the first time of the year, with experts warning that continued heat and limited water reserves could deepen drought risks in northern Italy. The shrinking waterway has already left fields dry, irrigation canals restricted and farmers worried about the impact on crops. Apple has announced it will release important security updates earlier instead of waiting for its next major iOS software update. The company said the decision comes as artificial intelligence is helping hackers find and exploit software vulnerabilities much faster, reducing the time available to protect users. Instead of bundling security fixes with the next iOS 26.6 update, Apple is now rolling out the latest patches immediately to all eligible users. Apple said there is no evidence that the newly fixed security flaws have been exploited, but added that faster software updates will help reduce cyber risks and better protect iPhone users. Uber and Alphabet's Waymo have ended their self-driving vehicle partnership in Phoenix after completing a limited pilot program. The partnership, launched in 2023, allowed Uber users to book rides in Waymo's driverless cars through the Uber app. Waymo said that the vehicles have now returned to its own Phoenix fleet, while driverless riders through Uber will continue in Austin and Atlanta. Uber also said it is preparing to launch a new autonomous vehicle partnership in Phoenix, but has not yet revealed the new partner. Iran-linked cyber attacks against Israel have tripled since the US-Israeli military offensive against Iran. Israel's National Cyber Directorate said that it recorded around 4,800 hostile cyber incidents in June 2026, up from about 1,600 during the same month last year. Officials said that the attacks targeted critical infrastructure, government systems, businesses and private companies. Israel said it has so far prevented major attacks on critical infrastructure but warned that cyber threats continue despite the ceasefire. Asian markets traded mostly higher on Tuesday, tracking Wall Street gains. Japan's Nikkei climbed 1.4%, while South Korea's Kospi added 1.2%. Australia's ASX 200 was little changed. On Wall Street, the Dow closed at a record high, above the 52,000 mark, while the S&P 500 gained 1.2% and the Nasdaq surged over 2%. US stock futures were little changed ahead of key economic data, including job openings and consumer confidence. Oil prices fell on Tuesday as investors awaited possible US-Iran talks in Doha, hoping for progress towards easing tensions in West Asia. Brent slipped about 1%, while crude fell 0.7%. Markets remain cautious as uncertainty over the talks in shipping through the Strait of Hormuz continues to cloud the outlook for global oil supplies. Gold prices fell more than 1% on Tuesday and were on track for a fourth straight monthly decline as expectations of US Federal Reserve rate hikes outweighed geopolitical concerns. Spot gold slipped below $3,960 an ounce, while traders now await key US job data this week for fresh clues on the Fed's policy outlook. The Japanese yen fell to its weakest level since 1986, raising expectations of possible intervention by Tokyo to support the currency. The yen touched 162.27 against the US dollar, weighed down by the wide interest rate gap between Japan and the United States. Investors are now awaiting this week's US jobs data, which could shape the Federal Reserve's interest rate outlook and influence global currency markets. Japan came within seconds of producing one of the biggest upsets of the FIFA World Cup, only for Brazil to snatch victory in dramatic fashion. Gabriel Martinelli's stoppage time winner broke Japanese hearts as the five-time champions escaped with a 2-1 win in Houston to book their place in the last 16. Brazil will face either Ivory Coast or Norway. Four-time world champions Germany are out of the FIFA World Cup 2026 after suffering a dramatic penalty shootout defeat to Paraguay in the round of 32. The 1-1 draw was followed by an intense shootout that saw Paraguay triumph 4-3, handing Germany their first ever World Cup defeat on penalties. Paraguay now await a potential showdown with France in the next round, provided Les Bleus overcome Sweden. A historic night for Paraguay and heartbreak for Germany. The South Americans are through to the last 16 after one of the tournament's biggest upsets so far. The music industry gathered in mourning and celebration at the funeral of legendary music executive Clive Davis, who recently passed away at the age of 94. The private 90-minute service at Manhattan's Central Synagogue drew a powerhouse lineup of attendees, including Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen, Alicia Keys, Barry Manilow, Donnie Warwick, and Usher. In a major blow to fans of the classic Bollywood comedy franchise, filmmaker Priyadarshan has officially confirmed his exit from the highly anticipated Hera Fairy 3. In a recent interview, the director stated that he is no longer involved with the project due to unresolved legal disputes regarding franchise ownership and personal differences with the producers. Despite the recent reunion of the iconic trio Akshay Kumar, Sunil Shetty and Paresh Rawal, Priyadarshan expressed strong doubts that the film would ever hit theatres, citing ongoing financial and production hurdles that make moving forward virtually impossible.